In the bustling halls of the university, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint aroma of old books, creating a comforting yet chaotic atmosphere. I found myself in a familiar corner of the library, surrounded by stacks of textbooks and scattered notes. It was a typical Tuesday afternoon, and I was buried in my studies, trying to make sense of the endless theories on human behavior for my psychology class. My mind, however, was a tumultuous sea of thoughts, drifting between academic obligations and personal dilemmas. I had always been the diligent student, the one who prioritized grades over social life. But lately, I felt an unsettling restlessness gnawing at me. My friends had begun to notice my withdrawal, their concerned glances a constant reminder that I was missing out on something essential, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Perhaps it was the weight of unfulfilled dreams or the lingering ache of loneliness that had settled in my chest. As I flipped through pages filled with dense text, my gaze drifted to the window. Outside, students laughed and chatted, their carefree spirits a stark contrast to my internal struggle. That's when she walked in, Professor Elena Hart. She swept into the room with an air of confidence that turned heads, her dark hair cascading in soft waves around her shoulders. There was something magnetic about her presence. It drew me in like gravity. Elena was not just any professor. She was known for her captivating lectures that ignited passion in even the most disinterested students. Her voice was rich and melodic, and when she spoke about human connections, it felt as if she were revealing secrets of the universe. I had attended her classes for months now, always sitting at the back, absorbing every word while keeping my distance. Yet today, as she approached my table to discuss an upcoming project, I felt an electric charge in the air. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. I nodded, suddenly aware of how messy my notes were scattered across the table. "Sure," I replied, trying to sound casual despite the fluttering in my stomach. As she settled into the chair across from me, I couldn't help but notice the way her smile lit up her face. It was warm and inviting, but held an underlying intensity that made it hard to look away. We exchanged pleasantries about our project topic, an exploration of emotional intimacy, and I found myself captivated by her insights. The way she spoke about vulnerability and connection resonated deeply within me, echoing feelings I had long suppressed. But beneath our academic conversation lay an unspoken tension that crackled between us like static electricity. Every time our eyes met, a rush of warmth spread through me, igniting a longing I couldn't quite understand. It terrified me and thrilled me all at once. As we delved deeper into our discussion, Elena leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper as she shared anecdotes from her own life, moments of heartbreak and joy that shaped her understanding of love. I hung onto every word, feeling as if she were peeling back layers of herself just for me. Yet amidst this budding connection, a flicker of guilt surfaced within me. Was it wrong to feel this way about my professor? The thought gnawed at me as we wrapped up our conversation and exchanged contact information for further collaboration on our project. As she stood to leave, our fingers brushed against each other, a fleeting touch that sent shivers down my spine. "Let's meet tomorrow to discuss this further," she suggested with a smile that lingered in my mind long after she walked away. I watched her go, heart racing and thoughts swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. In that moment, I knew everything was about to change. The mundane rhythm of my life shattered by one encounter that held the promise of something extraordinary. The next day arrived with a heavy cloud of anticipation hanging over me. I spent the morning in a daze, my thoughts consumed by the fleeting moments I had shared with Elena. The way she leaned in as she spoke, the warmth of her laughter, and the intensity of her gaze haunted me, making it difficult to focus on anything else. I tried to push the feelings aside, reminding myself that she was my professor and that crossing that line could lead to complications I wasn't ready to face. When I arrived at our designated meeting spot, a cozy cafe just off campus, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The aroma of freshly baked pastries and rich coffee enveloped me as I took a seat at a small table near the window. My heart raced as I glanced around, half hoping to see her walk through the door. Moments later, she entered, her presence commanding attention even amidst the bustling crowd. She wore a fitted navy blazer over a soft white blouse, her hair cascading over one shoulder. My breath caught in my throat as she spotted me and smiled, the corners of her mouth curving in that way that made my heart flutter. "Sorry to keep you waiting," she said as she approached, her voice smooth and inviting. "I got caught up in grading papers." "It's no problem at all," I replied, trying to sound composed as I gestured for her to sit. I was just enjoying the atmosphere. As we settled into our conversation about our project, the initial nervousness began to fade. We discussed theories of attachment and emotional intimacy with an ease that felt natural, almost effortless. But beneath the surface of our academic dialogue, something deeper simmered, an unspoken connection that crackled like electricity in the air between us. After an hour of discussing our ideas, Elena suggested we take a break. "How about we grab some coffee? I could use a little pick-me-up," she said with a playful smile. "Sure, I'll get it," I offered, eager for any excuse to prolong our time together. As I stood in line at the counter, I couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was unfolding between us. When I returned with two steaming cups, Elena was leaning back at her chair, her eyes sparkling as she watched me approach. "Thank you," she said, taking the cup from my hands. Our fingers brushed again, this time lingering just a moment longer, and my heart raced at the contact. We continued to chat about everything and nothing, our favorite books, hidden talents, and even our most embarrassing moments in college. With each shared laugh and knowing glance, I felt walls crumbling around my heart. There was an intimacy blossoming between us that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Then came the moment that would change everything. Just as Elena began sharing a story about a particularly challenging class she taught last semester, the cafe's lights flickered ominously before plunging us into semi-darkness. A collective gasp echoed through the room as people looked around in confusion. Moments later, a loud crash erupted outside. A car had collided with another on the busy street just beyond the cafe's windows. Instinctively, I reached for Elena's hand across the table, squeezing it tightly as panic surged through me. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She turned to me, eyes wide but steadying as she gripped my hand back. "I'm fine," she reassured me softly, but there was an intensity in her gaze that sent shivers down my spine. "Let's just stay calm." In that moment of chaos outside, the screeching tires and frantic voices, I felt an overwhelming sense of vulnerability wash over us both. Time seemed to slow as we locked eyes. It was as if we were cocooned in our own world amidst the turmoil surrounding us. "Can you believe this?" she said with a nervous laugh, trying to lighten the mood while still holding my hand firmly. Just when we were getting into such a great conversation. I couldn't help but smile back at her attempt to diffuse the tension. Right? It's like life is trying to interrupt us. The connection between us deepened as we shared this unexpected moment of vulnerability, two souls reaching out for comfort amidst uncertainty. It was raw and real. There were no pretenses or barriers between us now. As sirens blared in the distance and staff rushed to check on everyone inside the cafe, Elena leaned closer across the table. "You know," she said softly, "these moments remind us how fragile life can be." Her words struck a chord within me. They resonated with all my fears and desires swirling inside. It was true. Life was unpredictable and fleeting, and here we were sharing this intimate moment when everything else felt chaotic. "I've always believed that it's these connections that matter most." I replied quietly, feeling bold under her gaze. Elena nodded thoughtfully. "Absolutely. It's what makes life meaningful." Her eyes held mine for what felt like an eternity before she broke our gaze to look outside at the commotion unfolding beyond the glass. Normalcy began to return. The lights flickering back on and conversations resuming, I sensed an unspoken understanding between us had shifted irrevocably. We had crossed an invisible line into something deeper than friendship or student-teacher dynamics. But with that realization came an unsettling wave of guilt crashing over me like cold water. Was it wrong to feel this way? Was it ethical for me to harbor these feelings for someone who held power over my academic future? The questions loomed large in my mind like storm clouds threatening rain. As we finished our coffees and prepared to leave the cafe together, her hand brushing against mine once more, I knew this connection would haunt me long after we parted ways. The thrill of attraction intertwined with fear of consequences created an intoxicating tension that would only grow stronger from here on out. The days that followed our cafe encounter felt like a whirlwind, each moment spent with Elena intensifying the connection we had forged. We met frequently to discuss our project, but each meeting became less about academics and more about discovering the intricate layers of each other's lives. It was as if we were peeling back the skin of our souls, revealing vulnerabilities that had long been hidden. One afternoon, we decided to meet at a small art gallery downtown. The air was crisp, and the scent of autumn leaves filled the streets as I walked toward the venue. I arrived early, my heart racing with anticipation. The gallery was a cozy space adorned with vibrant paintings and eclectic sculptures, the kind of place where time seemed to stand still. I wandered through the exhibits, losing myself in the colors and textures until I felt a familiar presence behind me. Beautiful, isn't it? Elena's voice broke through my reverie, and I turned to find her standing there, her eyes sparkling with excitement. It really is, I replied, my heart fluttering at the sight of her. She wore a soft green sweater that hugged her figure just right, and a delicate silver necklace that caught the light as she moved. The warmth of her smile sent a rush of warmth through me. We spent hours wandering through the gallery, discussing our interpretations of each piece. Elena had an insightful perspective on art. She spoke passionately about how it reflected human emotions and experiences. Her laughter echoed through the halls like music, and I found myself captivated not just by her words, but by the way she expressed herself, her hands animatedly gesturing as she spoke, her eyes lighting up with every new thought. Look at this one, she said, pointing to a large canvas splashed with bold reds and deep blues. It's chaotic, but beautiful. It reminds me of how messy life can be. I stepped closer to examine it, feeling her warmth beside me. It's like it's alive. I mused, glancing sideways at her. There's so much energy in it. Elena no detto jehashtfuri. Exactly. It's raw emotion laid bare. She paused for a moment before turning to me. What about you? What do you think your art would look like? I hesitated, caught off guard by her question. I'm not sure. Maybe something softer? Like pastels or watercolors. My voice faltered as I realized how vulnerable that sounded. She smiled knowingly, tilting her head slightly. I can see that. You seem like someone who feels deeply. Her words struck a chord within me, a mix of warmth and fear coursing through my veins. Did she see through my carefully constructed facade? Did she know how much I longed for connection yet feared its consequences? As we moved from one exhibit to another, I found myself increasingly drawn to her. Her laughter became my favorite sound, her presence my safe haven amidst the chaos of my thoughts. Yet with each shared moment came an undercurrent of anxiety. I was acutely aware of our boundaries blurring. Later that evening, we settled into a quiet corner of the gallery cafe for coffee. The atmosphere was intimate, dim lighting casting soft shadows around us as we sipped our drinks. The rich aroma of roasted beans enveloped us like a warm embrace. Do you ever think about what it means to connect with someone? Elena asked suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence between us. That I looked up from my cup, surprised by the depth of her question. All the time, I admitted cautiously. But it's complicated. Complicated how? She pressed gently, her gaze steady on mine, but I hesitated again, weighing my words carefully. I guess it's hard to let someone in when you're afraid of getting hurt or judged. My heart raced as I spoke. This was territory I rarely ventured into. Elena leaned forward slightly, her expression softening. You don't have to be afraid with me, she said softly. I promise. Her reassurance sent a wave of warmth through me, but doubt lingered at the edges of my mind. Could I truly trust her? Was it wise to open up when there were so many risks involved? I appreciate that. I replied finally, though uncertainty clouded my heart. We continued talking late into the evening, sharing stories from our pasts and dreams for the future. each revelation drawing us closer together while simultaneously heightening my internal conflict. The more we connected emotionally, the more intense my feelings became, and with them came an overwhelming sense of guilt. As we left the gallery that night and stepped into the cool air outside, Elena reached for my hand without thinking. Her fingers intertwined with mine effortlessly as we walked down the street together, a simple gesture that sent shockwaves through me. "Isn't this nice?" she said lightly, glancing over at me with a smile that made my heart skip a beat. "It is," I replied breathlessly, acutely aware of how right it felt yet terrified by what it meant. But then came an unexpected moment that shattered my tranquility. A couple passed us on the sidewalk, their laughter ringing out in joyous abandon. They looked so carefree, so in love, that it made my stomach twist with longing and guilt all at once. Elena must have sensed my shift in mood because she stopped walking and turned to face me fully. "What is it?" she asked gently. Sometimes I feel like this is wrong," I admitted quietly, pulling my hand away instinctively as if breaking contact could erase what was happening between us. "What do you mean?" Her brow furrowed slightly in concern. "I mean, you're my professor," I said hastily, searching for words that would convey all my conflicting emotions without sounding foolish or overly dramatic. Her expression softened further as she stepped closer again, closing the distance between us until our breaths mingled in the cool night air. "And what if that doesn't matter? What if what we have is real?" The intensity in her gaze sent shivers down my spine. There was something undeniably magnetic about her that made it hard to think straight. But before I could respond, before I could voice all my fears, she reached out again and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. The touch was electric, a jolt that coursed through me and ignited every nerve ending in my body. My heart raced uncontrollably as our eyes locked once more. It felt as if time had paused around us, but then reality crashed back in like an unwelcome tide. Guilt surged within me once more as I stepped back slightly, breaking our connection before things could escalate further. "I can't," I whispered hoarsely, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes as confusion swirled inside me like a storm. "Why not?" Elena asked softly but firmly, a challenge wrapped in concern. Because this is all so complicated," I stammered helplessly. "What if people find out? What if it ruins everything?" She took a deep breath and stepped back too, her expression shifting from concern to understanding tinged with sadness. "I get it," she said quietly. "But sometimes you have to take risks for something worth having." Her words hung heavy between us, a bittersweet reminder of everything we stood to lose if we didn't tread carefully along this precarious path we had begun to walk together. As we stood there beneath the streetlights, the world around us fading away, I realized just how deeply intertwined our lives had become in such a short time, and how much more complicated things were about to get. The following week was a blur of tension and anticipation. Each time I saw Elena, my heart raced with a mix of excitement and fear. Our meetings had become charged with unspoken feelings, the air between us thick with possibilities. I could feel the weight of our connection pressing down on me, urging me to confront the reality of what we were becoming. It was a Friday evening when everything changed. We had planned to meet in my apartment to finalize our project, but I knew that the stakes were higher than just academics. The moment I opened the door to let her in, a wave of nervous energy washed over me. The familiar scent of her perfume, a delicate blend of jasmine and sandalwood, filled my senses, heightening my awareness of her presence. "Hey," she said, stepping inside and glancing around my modest living space. "Nice place." "Thanks," I replied, trying to sound casual as I closed the door behind her. "I hope you don't mind the mess." She waved a hand dismissively. "It's cozy, just like you." The compliment sent a rush of warmth through me, but I quickly diverted my gaze to the cluttered coffee table strewn with textbooks and notes. We settled onto the couch, our knees brushing against each other as we spread out our materials. As we worked through our project, the conversation flowed easily, but the underlying tension was palpable. Every time Elena leaned in to point out a detail or discuss an idea, my heart raced. I could feel her warmth radiating toward me. drawing me in like a moth to a flame. "Can I ask you something?" she said suddenly, her voice dropping to softer tone that made my stomach flutter. "Of course," I replied, trying to keep my tone steady despite the anticipation building within me. "What do you really think about us?" Her gaze locked onto mine, intense and searching. The question hung in the air like a fragile thread ready to snap. My heart pounded in my chest as I grappled with how to respond. I, I think we have something special, I admitted slowly, feeling vulnerable as I spoke. "Special how?" She pressed gently, leaning closer till I took a deep breath, feeling exposed under her scrutiny. "I mean, it's different from anything I've ever experienced before." My voice trembled slightly as I continued. "But it's also scary because of everything that comes with it." Elena nodded thoughtfully, her expression shifting from curiosity to understanding. "I feel it too," she confessed quietly. "There's something about you that draws me in, something real." The sincerity in her voice sent shivers down my spine. It was as if she had peeled back another layer of my defenses, exposing my deepest fears and desires. "But what if it's wrong?" I whispered, grappling with the weight of our situation. "It doesn't feel wrong to me," she replied softly, reaching out to tuck another loose strand of hair behind my ear, a gesture that felt intimate and electrifying all at once. In that moment, everything around us faded away, the cluttered room, the world outside, until it was just the two of us suspended in time. My heart raced as I felt the pull between us intensify. It was an undeniable force that drew me closer to her. "Maybe we should just see where this goes," Elena suggested hesitantly, her eyes searching mine for any sign of agreement. Before I could respond, she moved even closer, her face inches from mine, and suddenly everything shifted. The air crackled with anticipation as our breaths mingled in the space between us. "I want to kiss you," she whispered, vulnerability lacing her words. My heart thundered in response. Every rational thought fled from my mind as desire surged through me like wildfire. "Then kiss me," I urged breathlessly, feeling bold yet terrified at what this moment could mean for us. And then it happened, a gentle brush of lips that ignited everything inside me. It started soft and tentative, but quickly deepened into something more passionate as we melted into each other's embrace. Her hands found their way to my waist while mine tangled in her hair, pulling her closer as if afraid she might disappear. The kiss was electric, every nerve ending alive with sensation, as we lost ourselves in each other completely. Time ceased to exist. There was only this moment, the taste of her lips mingling with the warmth of her body against mine. But just as quickly as it began, reality crashed back in like a tidal wave. The weight of our actions loomed large over us. Guilt clawed at my insides even as desire raged within me. We broke apart breathlessly, both gasping for air as we stared into each other's eyes, wide and filled with conflicting emotions. "What did we just do?" I whispered, panic rising within me. Elena looked equally shaken but resolute. "We kissed," she said softly but firmly, as if trying to ground us both amidst the chaos swirling around us. "But what does that mean for us?" I asked urgently, fear creeping into my voice. Her expression softened again as she reached for my hand, her touch grounding yet electrifying all at once. "It means we need to figure this out together," she replied earnestly, but even as she spoke those words filled with promise and hope, uncertainty loomed over us like dark clouds threatening rain. The reality of our situation, the student-teacher dynamic, hung heavily between us like an unspoken barrier we had just crossed. "I'm scared," I admitted quietly, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes as vulnerability washed over me once more. "I am too," Elena confessed gently, squeezing my hand tighter as if anchoring us both amidst the storm brewing inside our hearts. In that moment of raw honesty, two souls laid bare. I felt an overwhelming sense of connection mixed with fear. We had crossed a line that could lead us down an uncertain path filled with both passion and peril. As we sat there together, hearts racing and minds swirling, I knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning of something profound yet complicated, a journey fraught with emotional stakes that neither one of us could fully comprehend just yet. The days following our kiss felt like a surreal dream, one that I both cherished and feared. I replayed the moment over and over in my mind, the warmth of Elena's lips against mine igniting a fire within me that was impossible to extinguish. Yet, with each passing hour, the weight of our actions settled heavily on my shoulders, suffocating me with guilt and anxiety. I tried to maintain my usual routine, attending classes and meeting friends, but everything felt different. My laughter felt forced, and the conversations I once enjoyed now seemed shallow. The world around me continued to spin, but I was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, longing for Elena while grappling with the consequences of what we had done. Point one evening, as I sat in my room surrounded by textbooks and notes, my phone buzzed with a message from her. My heart raced as I opened it. Elena, can we talk? I think we need to figure this out. I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity, anxiety gnawing in my stomach. What did figure this out mean? Did she regret what happened? Did she want to end things before they had even begun? After a few agonizing minutes, I typed back to me, yes, of course. When, Elena, how about tomorrow after class? The next day dragged on like molasses. Each tick of the clock felt like a reminder of the impending conversation that loomed over me. When class finally ended, I found myself walking toward our usual spot in the park, a serene area filled with blooming flowers and rustling trees that now felt tainted by uncertainty. Elena was already there when I arrived, sitting on a bench with her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She looked up as I approached, her expression a mix of apprehension and determination. Hey, she said softly, patting the space beside her. Hey, I replied, taking a seat next to her. The air between us was thick with unspoken words as we both stared ahead at the vibrant flowers swaying in the gentle breeze. I've been thinking about everything, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. Me too, I admitted, my heart pounding in my chest. I just don't know how to handle it. Elena took a deep breath before turning to face me fully. I don't regret kissing you, she said firmly. But we need to be honest about what this means. Her words sent a rush of relief through me but also deepened my anxiety. What do you mean? I mean, we can't pretend this is just a fling or something casual, she said earnestly. There's something real here, something worth exploring. But what about your position as my professor? I asked, feeling panic rise within me. What if someone finds out? What if it jeopardizes your career? Elena hesitated for a moment before responding. I'm aware of the risks, she said softly, but I can't ignore how I feel about you. Her honesty was refreshing yet terrifying. It laid bare all my fears about our relationship and what it could mean for both of us. I feel the same way, I confessed quietly, but it feels so wrong. She nodded slowly, her eyes searching mine for understanding. I get it. But sometimes we have to take risks for something that feels right. As we sat there in silence, the weight of her words hung heavily between us, an acknowledgement of the emotional stakes involved in pursuing this connection further. But just as I began to feel hopeful that we could navigate this together, my phone buzzed again. A message from one of my friends that shattered the fragile moment we had created. Friend. Hey, are you coming to the party tonight? I glanced at Elena, who raised an eyebrow curiously. Everything okay? Just a party invitation. I replied quickly, feeling torn between wanting to escape into distraction and needing to confront the reality of our situation. Maybe you should go, she suggested gently. It might help take your mind off things. Are you sure? I asked hesitantly. Yeah, she said with a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. We can talk more later. As much as I wanted to stay and explore this newfound connection further, part of me craved the distraction that a party could provide, a chance to forget about everything swirling around us for just a little while longer. That night at the party was chaotic. Laughter and music filled the air as friends danced and mingled under strobing lights. Yet despite the festivities surrounding me, an unsettling heaviness clung to my heart like an anchor dragging me down into uncertainty. I tried to engage with friends, smiling and laughing, but every time someone mentioned relationships or love, guilt washed over me like icy water. How could I enjoy myself knowing that I was hiding something so significant from everyone around me? As the night wore on, I found myself stepping outside for some fresh air, needing space to breathe away from the noise and chaos inside. The cool night air wrapped around me like a comforting blanket as I leaned against the railing overlooking the street below. Just then, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Elena. Elena, are you okay? I hesitated before typing back. Me, I just needed some air. It's overwhelming here, Elena. Want me to come? My heart skipped at her offer. Part of me longed for her presence, while another part feared what would happen if we were together again amidst all this uncertainty. Me. Maybe, as if sensing my hesitation through the screen, she replied almost immediately, Elena, just let me know if you need me. Moments later, as if summoned by fate itself, Elena appeared at the edge of the party, her silhouette illuminated by flickering lights behind her. She looked stunning in a fitted black dress that accentuated her curves. Even from afar, I could see determination etched across her features. Hey, she said softly as she approached me. Hey, I replied breathlessly. Suddenly, everything else faded away until it was just us standing there under the stars. I'm glad you came, she said quietly as we stood side by side at the railing. I needed some air, I admitted honestly. It's hard pretending everything is fine when it feels so complicated. I know, Elena replied softly, glancing out at the street below as if searching for answers in the night sky above us. But we can't keep avoiding this. Before I could respond, laughter erupted from inside, the sound drawing our attention back toward where our friends were gathered, and suddenly an uncomfortable tension filled the space between us once more. Just then, one of my friends stumbled outside, clearly tipsy, and grinned widely upon seeing us together. Oh, look, the lovebirds are having their moment, he teased playfully. Heat flooded my cheeks as Elena shot him an amused yet pointed look before turning back to me with concern etched across her features. We should probably go back inside, she suggested gently. Yeah, maybe. But even as I spoke those words filled with uncertainty, I knew deep down that avoiding this conversation wouldn't make it go away. It would only amplify our internal struggles further down the line. As we stepped back inside together, the noise enveloping us once more, I couldn't shake off how fragile everything felt between us. Each shared glance held unspoken promises while simultaneously carrying an undercurrent of fear that threatened to unravel everything we had begun building together. The party continued around us, friends dancing and laughing. But amidst all this joy lay an undeniable tension simmering beneath its surface, one that would inevitably erupt into chaos if left unresolved much longer. The next morning brought clarity mixed with dread, after tossing and turning through sleepless hours filled with anxiety-laden dreams. I knew it was time to confront not only my feelings but also what lay ahead for both Elena and myself amidst this storm brewing within our hearts later. That afternoon, as I sat alone in my room contemplating how best to approach things, I received another unexpected message from Elena. Elena, can we talk? It's important. My heart sank at her words. They carried an urgency that set alarm bells ringing within me, a reminder that whatever lay ahead would require courage from both of us if we were ever going to find our way through this tangled mess together, without losing ourselves along the way. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the campus as I made my way to our usual meeting spot, a secluded bench beneath an ancient oak tree. My heart raced with anticipation and dread. Elena's message had left me feeling unsettled, like a storm brewing just beneath the surface. When I arrived, she was already seated, her expression serious yet soft. The sight of her sent a rush of emotions flooding through me: longing, fear, hope. I took a deep breath and approached, feeling as if I were stepping into uncharted territory. Hey, I said softly, taking a seat beside her. Hey, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, we sat in silence, the air thick with unspoken words. I could sense the weight of everything that had transpired between us hanging in the balance. I've been thinking a lot about us, Elena began, her gaze fixed on the ground as she traced patterns in the grass with her fingers, about what happened and where we go from here. I nodded, my heart pounding as I prepared myself for whatever was to come. Me too. It's been complicated. Complicated doesn't even begin to cover it, she said with a small laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. but I can't ignore how I feel about you. It's real, and it scares me. It scares me too, I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. But what does that mean for us? We're in such different places. Elena turned to face me fully, her expression earnest. I know there are risks involved, professional and personal, but I believe what we have is worth fighting for. Her words hung in the air between us like a fragile thread, and I felt my heart swell, with hope yet constrict with fear at the same time. But what if it all falls apart? I asked quietly. What if people find out? I can't control what others think or say, she replied gently. All I know is that when I'm with you, everything feels right. It's like nothing else matters. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes as I absorbed her words, the sincerity behind them resonating deeply within me. I feel that too, I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. But I hesitated, grappling with the weight of reality pressing down on us both. What if this puts your career at risk? What if we lose everything? Elena reached for my hand, intertwining our fingers as if anchoring us both amidst the storm swirling around us. I'm willing to take that risk if you are, she said firmly. Her touch sent warmth coursing through me. It felt so right, yet so wrong all at once. As much as my heart yearned for this connection, my mind raced with doubts and fears of judgment from others. I don't want to be the reason you lose your job or your reputation, I said softly, feeling tears threaten to spill over. You're not, she insisted gently but firmly. This is about us, about what we choose to do moving forward. As we sat there under the sprawling branches of the oak tree, our hands entwined, I realized how much this moment meant to me. It was more than just a decision about our relationship. It was about embracing who we were becoming together despite all the uncertainties ahead. I want to explore this with you, I finally said, my voice steadying as clarity washed over me. I want to see where this leads us. Elena's eyes lit up with joy, a spark that ignited something deep within me. Really? She asked incredulously. Yes, I replied earnestly. But we have to be careful, set boundaries, and be honest about everything. She nodded enthusiastically, squeezing my hand tighter as if sealing our pact with that simple gesture. Agreed. In that moment of mutual understanding and commitment, something shifted between us. It felt like we were stepping into a new chapter together, one filled with uncertainty but also possibility, as we began discussing how to navigate our relationship moving forward, setting boundaries, and being transparent. I felt lighter than I had in days. The weight of guilt slowly began to lift as hope replaced it, a reminder that love could flourish even amidst chaos. Later that evening, after our conversation had settled into comfortable silence punctuated by laughter and shared dreams for the future, Elena leaned closer and whispered softly into my ear, "No matter what happens next, know that you've changed my life." Her words struck a chord deep within me. They echoed everything I had felt since meeting her, the awakening of emotions long buried beneath layers of fear and doubt. I feel the same way, I replied earnestly, turning to meet her gaze once more, a connection forged through honesty and vulnerability that felt unbreakable. As we sat there together, hands still intertwined beneath the fading light, I realized how profoundly this journey had changed me. It had taught me about courage and authenticity in ways I never thought possible. And embracing our love despite its challenges, I discovered strength within myself that had long been dormant. A reminder that sometimes taking risks leads to beautiful transformations. As night fell around us, the stars twinkling overhead like tiny beacons of hope. I knew our journey was far from over. There would be challenges ahead, but together we would face them head on, united by love and an unwavering commitment to each other. And in that moment beneath the vast expanse of night sky, I understood that life was messy and unpredictable, but love, real love, was worth every risk taken along the way.